Hello and welcome to the Car Kernel channel, and welcome to our 600,000 mile Lexus project. So we've put this project on hold for a little bit, mainly because the shop's been super busy. We'll talk a little bit more about details and what we're hopefully planning to do with this. But today we want to address some things that are not very Lexus-like. Electrical gremlins. Let's get the video rolling and we'll talk a little bit about them and see what we're going to do about those. So here's what we have for gremlins, and they are plenty and they're kind of intertwined. So the radio doesn't work, that's okay, but in order to enter diagnostic mode on the head unit so we can understand what's going on, what kind of codes we have, what's what, we need to press the option button and cycle the taillights. But then problem number two, the taillights decided to go on an extended vacation. Sometimes they're back, most of the time they don't work. So, funny enough, when we started filming this video, they were actually working, so we had to almost abort the entire video. Then all of a sudden, they just decided to stop. So right now, they are in the stopped state, hopefully. We're gonna test it. This is normally not the way you do this, because I'm supposed to be on this side for the filming purposes. So you press option, and then on, off on the tail lights, like 2-3 times, and right now, nothing is happening, because the taillights are actually not turning on anywhere. So the first thing we're going to look at, and this is where we've talked about a little bit in a mini series we did on electrical diagnosis. We're going to go visit the diagram, familiarize ourselves with how this entire thing works, the tail light circuit, or actually Toyota calls it illumination. And then we'll start our diagnosis. We'll see what's easiest to check, and then we'll go from there. So this is the diagram of illumination on the LS430. It is a 6-page behemoth, and that's just how the LS is. They have a lot of lights for a lot of different things, and actually this is a very basic one. You go into some of the newer cars, this substantially grows into something massive. But let's start from the very beginning and isolate our problem, because here's the thing with this thing. The combination meter, or the gauges, they work fine. We have correct light in them, the dimmer responds, but everything else is dead. So I feel like this is going to make our life a little bit easier, but a little bit harder. Depends how you look at it. A little bit easier because we have one isolated problem. A little bit harder because some stuff works. So the basics, a blown fuse, for example, goes out the window. But let's start tracing our diagram from the beginning. So here is what's going on in this spaghetti mess. This is a combination meter, and if you notice, it is completely separate than the rest. All these, like I'm reading here, height control switch, we don't have that. Absorber control switch, we don't have that. Cigarette lighter front, we have that, but that's kind of interesting to get to. This switch, that's a switch that changes to power and snow mode for the transmission. But easier is the shifter illumination. So we are on the right track, and this entire thing continues to light up everything until it gets to the radio. But if we trace this wire up here, it actually ends up going through this maze, coming back, and then going to the driver's side junction block ECU. That's what sends power to these entire lights that are now off. But at the same time, our ground comes from also the same junction block. So here's what we're going to do. I want to see if I have a ground or a power problem, or do I have a computer problem. So we're going to go at one of these lights when it's supposedly lit, tail lights are on, and see if we have power or ground to it. See what's missing, or if they're both missing, then we might immediately turn our attention to the driver's side junction block ECU, because that could be the culprit. But if one of them is missing, we might have a broken wire, or kind of partially broken, where sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's go check that. So the easiest place we're going to be able to check what are we losing, power or ground, is the mirror switch. It's actually lit, and don't break. Okay, didn't break. That's good. So the green wire is the power wire, and the lighter green with the stripe is the ground. I have my little power probe, which I love, because it gives you like a quick and shows you the voltage, and you can supply power, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So this beep, or the green light, we're going to turn off the beep because it's annoying, but the green light means we have ground. Now I'm going to turn on my tail lights, and we still have ground. That is not a good sign, I have to admit. But then we go to the other one, it has constant ground. But the cool thing is, if I supply power here, the lights actually come on. So that tells me there's no point in going chasing after the junction blocks and everything else. That's all working. There's only one thing for it. And because we have that ground there, I feel like we have a computer problem, or we have to verify it here. But something interesting, and for you to know why they have both the power and the ground controlled by the computer. So when we apply power here, and you actually go and try to dim it, it's actually going to dim, because that's how it's controlling it. Because you're supplying power right now, it dims it by dimming the ground. And that's the cool thing. That's why this is like that. So now that we know that our problem is not exactly direct wiring, we're going to go straight to the source. Let's look at the diagram so we know what we're going to do here. So right now we sent power in one of these wires and all this lit up. This is good. So we're going to go to see, because I have a standing ground there that I don't like. We follow this to the junction, driver's side junction block ECU. But whenever I see a gray area, that means this is internal inside the fuse block. So I'm going to chase this to right here where the green wire actually enters this junction block, which says DI. Let's go digging for that junction block, and we'll go find this guy and see if when I turn the taillights, am I getting power here? Because if I am getting power here, that means I have a break in my wire somewhere between this and the actual lights. But if I have no power coming out of here, we have a problem with our junction block. And at that point, there's very little we can actually do to diagnose this, because all this is internal. We'll try, we'll see what we can do, but let's first get our facts. So I got my little diagram here. It looks like the connector we're looking for, DI pin 18, is this one right here on the side of the junction block, which we're gonna find out how easy or not easy, which means we have to tear into the LS once more. We've already been here slightly, not exactly that area, but close. And this is, yeah. We'll get to the detailing. We're talking a little bit about that toward the end of the video. We're making some progress in that, kind of deciding what we want to do. But park and brake. Let's see if we can. There we go. And are we gonna get lucky and this connector is in the front, or is it all the way in the back? And I have to get this carpet somehow crumpled up. Of course, Lexus loves to do this. They integrate in the older models, they love to integrate the plastic into the carpet. Newer models don't do that anymore. It's kind of an old school touch. There we go. See this plastic piece? This sits on top on the newer models. But in the older models, it used to be part of the carpet. Just to make it look nicer, I'm gonna need to peel this back. Okay. Well, hello fuse block full of leaves, and I don't know how you can get leaves underneath the carpet, but God bless the previous owner. They somehow managed to do that. That's okay. And your guys are right in the comments. Every time I say that's okay, it is the opposite of that. But let's look. And I think our connector is right at the bottom. Of course it is, because I only see two connectors at the bottom. Let's see if they look like, yes they do. Okay, we're making progress here, folks. I'm going to disconnect the connector, and we need to check just so we can verify. Okay, it is this one. It is this one. I believe that is the one. And pin 18, which has a green wire, is in the top row. There it is. One very beautiful green wire. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put our pin, somehow plug it back in. It's gonna be very difficult. Come on. Something just happened. Of course, this is a giant connector that when you unplug it, it unplugs so many things. My only concern is I have nothing. There we go. See, it does something. Sending point 1 volts. So unfortunately, the fuse block is dead inside because everything else is working. The combo meter is changing with the tail lights, so that means power is making its way here. So yeah, that's not good. But what I don't understand is when I supply power here, why is it not turning my tail lights? That I'm gonna have to investigate. Definitely not a good sign. So we might have two problems. I'm gonna have to turn this on. Oh, you know what? I know why it's not turning them on, because this connector needs to be plugged in. Because remember, the ground control on these lights is through here. So when I have it plugged in and the switch on and I apply power here, we should get light. Which, are we getting light? It's really hard to see with all the camera lights here. Yeah, we are getting lights. So, unfortunately, this fuse block is gonna need some work. Possibly replacement. You know, the easiest thing to do right now is to replace it. But I'm concerned about the why. Because, is there a water leak here that caused this? We're gonna have to take this fuse block out and kind of try to disassemble it and see what's going on inside. Or we could just, I've never really seen fuse blocks go out like that unless they get water, but just get another one and swap it out and see what happens. I think I like that option. However, now that we know our problem, I can kind of bypass the diagnosis thing and pulse the tail signal to get my radio to go into diagnosis mode, so at least we can make some progress there while we figure out what we're going to do here. So let's do that. So here's what we're going to do. I have the car on right now. We're going to press and hold the option button, and yes, I have 3 hands. No, one of my awesome team members, Mateo, is helping me here. We're going to pulse. There we go. This actually worked. I cannot believe that this actually worked. Well, let's look at what we got here in service check mode. So I feel like we take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because we finally got this to work, and it was taking a really long time to check everything, and it actually just finished the check. This has been literally been going on for 2-3 minutes. So here's what we got. Front display has check, means it has codes. Audio head unit has codes. Navigation ECU has codes. But there's something very interesting here. DSP amplifier not connected. So that is really not good. But let's start with the head unit. Check. There is a memory code 6344, and the curious thing is I can't clear them. No LAN communication codes, so that's good. LAN is one of the many methods of communication this radio uses to communicate with the different things, because like the Mark Levinson talks in a different language, so all these different networks. But 6344 is a code we're going to want to investigate. So we're going to go back. Let's check the front display. Front display has multiple codes, and they also don't want to erase. Unit check. We don't have any codes, but on LAN communication, we have a lot of codes. So we're going to have to research those. Let's go back to our navigation. It has a 5842 on the LAN. We have a lot of codes. This is going to be very interesting, and we're going to simplify this, and let's show you how we're going to simplify this. So here is what we have. First thing is, turn the key on. Navigation, which of course takes a while. I agree. I will promise I will watch the road. And then we get the first gremlin once she takes her time. There we go. Disk read error, check disk. So we're gonna do that. And then the second thing is there is no audio, and you notice this is where two keywords that you're gonna see here. Mark Levinson, and you notice that the volume knob doesn't do anything. And then the second thing, we're going to go to audio and we're going to go to sound. You notice all these, they're grayed out. There's nothing. Because in these older times of audio systems, the Mark Levinson system did not communicate with the radio of the car, so they had to have a gateway in between so all these systems would talk to each other. It was a mess. They're super complicated to diagnose, and that's what we're trying to dive into in this video. And actually the navigation also does not communicate on the same network as the amplifier. It's just a giant mess. So all these codes mean that we have zero communication with all our friends over here, the amplifier and the navigation unit. Let's remove, by the way, I got new ones, and these are all eventually gonna retire. And then we get this one. I also have a new one of these because they're all worn out. And this is the picture of ugly. I mean, this is unbelievable. Okay, we've been here. I know this is a mess, but this is not even connected to anything. Okay, it's not bad. We'll work on that when we get to detailing. I would like to remove this entire panel here and permanently remove it for now, because in order to do that, I have some extra stuff here. I am starting to grow a feeling that somebody's been here. I'm going to move this entire panel so we can really see what we're working with here. And honestly, these panels are so disgusting that at some point we're going to end up replacing all of them or doing something with them, because they're just... There we go. There goes the clip. And see if I can get this panel out. What else are we hanging on over here? There it goes. Okay. One disgusting panel coming out. Now we can really see what we got here. Down here lives one of the worst engineering ideas for Lexus. Hey, let's follow the Germans. Let's put every single important computer very low on the ground where it can fill up with water and corrosion and dirt and dust. And let's price them all at a very expensive price. That's okay. And by that's okay, I mean that's not okay at all. This is the innocently just sitting here is the navigation disc reader, which is essentially not a main component. I hate to use these terms, but we have to keep technical terms. These are slave units. So basically, this is just reporting to the navigation unit in the front. This just reads the disk, sends the data, that's all it does. However, the amplifier, which lives conveniently right here, is not a slave unit. It's actually a master. So what that means is this is actually what allows the radio to change the volume, and in a fashion that is very complicated, very unnecessary, but that's how things are in the past. So we have two problems. Our navigation, this unit is not responding. It's not sending any signal. It's not authenticating on the network. Those are where all these codes were. And the second problem is this is essentially unplugged. It just is sending nothing. That's why the radio, when you turn the volume, doesn't respond. When you go to change the audio settings, it doesn't respond because it's just relaying what the amplifier is telling it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull that amplifier, take a peek at it first. Is it full of water and is all connectors green? That's usually the easiest thing you check. And the second thing is we want to check power and ground to it, because if it's not on, that's our first problem. So let's do that. Let's get this guy off. Yes, you are. Okay. Yes. So, in case you don't know what this writing is, this is the handwriting of someone in the junkyard. This is a junkyard part. That's the first red flag. And do we have green gremlins? Let's find out. No. No. And hammer. No, we don't have green gremlins, so that's good. However, this is a junkyard unit. Now, there's something extremely common with these, which is this amplifier failure. It is rampant, and this is a junkyard one. And the first mistake I see, which we're going to verify right now, is this even the right part for this car? Because did you know that there were actually two head unit revisions for this, for the LS430? One of them is the old one, which is like this one, and then there is 2004 and up. I'm trying to locate a date here. It doesn't look like there is one, so I'm gonna go check this part number real quick and double check if we even have the right amplifier for this car. So here's what we got. This is the correct amplifier. It's an old version, but it is the correct one for this year's. The thing about this amplifier is it's of course discontinued, and even if it was not discontinued, it is a very hefty price of $3,500 almost. So here's what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna see if this guy is powering up, and then the second thing we're gonna do is it communicating or receiving an audio signal from the head unit? Because what happens is the head unit creates the audio signal, sends it here, this guy amplifies it, and then outputs it to the speakers. So if we could hotwire one of those outputs to a speaker, you will hear it very, very faintly. And that's what we're going to do here. That's really the only way to test these, because Lexus does not give you much to test, because this is a Mark Levinson system that does not talk Lexus language. So let's start with the basics. Let's check power and ground. So after a lot of researching here, the diagrams, which are kind of a nightmare. Let's turn that. We got power here, power there, and then there is another accessory point on S, and I labeled these connectors so we can find them easier. be a gray wire, which is right here. That has power. And our grounds are right here. So we can get the pin in there. We got grounds. We got ground. So the next thing we're going to check, once I figure out why my pin just broke, is going to be the mute wires. This is this is where the problems start. I have 3.2 volts. That's not good. That's okay. So the amplifier is sending a mute signal, partial mute signal, and that goes to the radio, and then the radio just doesn't respond anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to jump the connectors of the speakers. So basically we're going to bypass the entire amplifier and see if one of our speakers start making any kind of crackling noise. That means the radio is sending the correct signal here, but nothing's coming out of here. And unfortunately, this is super ancient diagnosis because this system is so old, and it just we kind of have to improvise ways to diagnose it. So let's jump one of our speakers and see what happens. Okay, so instead of jumping the wire and running inside the car, I found this little ancient speaker, and let's see if we connect it to one of the speakers. We don't want to short it now. I have the CD player running with the CD that came with the car. Huh! You hear that? I'm not going to play it too long for copyright reasons. But hey, the speaker works. That's progress. It's actually significant progress because we're back to square one. This amplifier is actually dead because it's receiving signal. The mute signals are strange, and it has power and ground. It's powering up, and the radio in the front is working. So this unit is dead. And this is, by the way, a very simple way to test these. Basically, this amplifier is receiving the audio signal at a very low frequency, and then it's amplifying it and taking it up. So basically, if you're getting ideas, if you want to bypass this whole mess and you want to install, say, an aftermarket amplifier, you're just going to hijack the signals from the radio. But the only problem with that is, where probably there's something aftermarket too, this is what controls the audio on the head unit. So unless you put another head unit, this is going to be a problem. But with that, we pretty much need some parts here. And this is, of course, discontinued. $3,500. I don't know if we would have wanted to go that far, but this is discontinued. Our only option is used. I would actually rather send this out and get it repaired than get another used one, because we already have a used one that doesn't work. This was a super common problem with these. So I will do some research, and I actually have a company that we deal with that fixes these, but we'll probably send it out to them, see how it goes, and we'll go from there. So we are discovering a lot more things wrong with this, and I feel like in this episode we have accomplished that I need to spend more money on this car. That's okay. Well, we're gonna need to send that amplifier to get repaired. We're gonna need to start shopping for a fuse box to fix that taillight issue. Once I get one, though, I'm curious. I'll take it apart and see what actually happened, because I'm curious if there's water in there. But since we have accomplished that this car needs a lot more than what we set out to do, let's do one thing. Quick fix. Do you remember the very unique LS clips that I told you about? They're extremely unique. They look like this. You will not find a lot of aftermarket clips that look like that. So let's say we accomplished a thing today in this video. Here's one, and here's two. There you go. We fixed something today. So here's what's going on with the LS and why there hasn't been more episodes. Truth have to be said. We've been a little bit on the lazy side here. First, this is the community car at the shop. Basically, all the team members are driving this car because I don't want it sitting, and we still want to get miles on it. We are serious about the 1,000,000 miles. We're committed. We're committed regardless of all the issues that we're having. So here are the future plans. In the very, very back of the shop, buried behind a lot of parts, is a transmission for this car. I've decided we need to move on from this transmission because we're not going to wait for it to completely die and then we're towing the car and it becomes a disabled car, because disabled cars in our shop is a problem. And I do not want to start the transmission job because that will probably take us a couple film sessions. The shop is very busy. We can't really film during the day. So we would have to disable this, film a few hours after hours, and then come back another day. We have a problem with disabled cars at the shop. Currently, we have the Supra, which we're working on finally. We have another Camry. We have another car that is almost disabling itself. So we cannot disable the LS yet, but we are committed. Here are the future plans for this car. I'm going to start researching either we're going to send that amp to get it repaired or just get a used one and hope it lasts, because I don't think it will. That fuse block, we're going to need to look into it and see what's the best option here. I don't think they're available, but I do have to check. Other things, exciting news. I cannot stand how dirty this car is anymore. Neither does the entire crew at TCCN Automotive, my shop, that are driving this car. And the second complaint about it is the lack of radio, so we got to get these two things taken care of. But we are going to do the detailing part car care nut style. I got in touch with a professional detailing company and we're going to kind of do a collaboration. Not going to reveal too much on that because I want it to be a surprise for you guys, but I guarantee you one thing. It will be a detailing style that you will never see on YouTube, because nobody will go to that length that we're going with this car, or any car for that matter. But you're gonna have to stay tuned for that one, but that is coming right after we finish all the oil leaks. We still got the trans to replace, we still got some of the oil leaks and the engine to fix, and then we roll into the detailing obsession, and it will be an obsession. Stay tuned for that and more. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope some of the diagnostic procedures that we've done in this video helps you if you're DIYing your car or you want to understand how diagnosis actually flows in the real world. This was a real world scenario. Basically, you take it one step at a time and hope you reach a conclusive diagnosis. And even your conclusive diagnosis, there could be things here and there. These old cars are very complicated for what they are, and things can come up at any time. That's just how they are. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And you have yourself a wonderful day.